Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like or comment on my video and consider subscribing to my channel. Now I am continuing through with my build series on the Battleship Mastered PvE series. Now today's ship is the Nightmare, as you can see from the side display. The Nightmare is the most tanky of all the battleships that are currently in the game. Currently, I have note of one being destroyed by a station and several of them being camped out by gate camps, but the Nightmare is still escaping the gate camp overall in terms of the prolonged combat. So I haven't heard of anybody killing a Nightmare in a gate camp as yet. I've heard of Macarials, I've heard of Balgons, I've heard of Rattlesnakes, and I've heard of Vindicators as well being destroyed in gate camps. But so far nobody has told me anything about a Nightmare going down. So the Nightmare may be the most difficult to defeat ship. You're going to need a battleship class ship to take it on. So it is going to be battleship versus battleship, and it's going to be high combat with a lot of difficult mechanics to take it on. That is only for PvP combat. So that's just a basic discussion on the ship. So let's talk about putting it in PvE. Can fit shield field modules. That means that this year will play a central part in formations in terms of fleets. It's going to be your anchor point. It's going to be your defensive wall against any type of action from your enemy. Now with this type of ship comes a whole other range of fleeting. I'm actually going to make a special fleet series for battleship only fleets. Now battleship only fleets have their own perspective in terms of gameplay. They are way more dangerous than any other type of fleet. They can do high-end activities way faster than any other ship fleet can. Even battle cruiser combat or cruiser combat can't match this type of efficiency when it comes to taking on activities. Okay, now when it comes to the advanced laser operation bonus, it gets plus 10% from laser damage and plus 7.5% tracking. Now if you take this out to the maximum, it's a 50% extra damage to the weapons plus a 37.5% addition on tracking. That means for these large lasers, it gives them quite a good tracking range. It makes them very deadly in close combat. Now moving on, advanced battleship command bonus per level plus 30% afterburner velocity bonus. So with an afterburner, this ship can eventually reach up to 150% additional velocity. Now adding it to your standard research along with everything that you can do on a afterburner, that's going to lead you up to 500% velocity. No, sorry, not 500. 400% velocity from an afterburner. Now putting that onto the ship, it means that this ship can travel really fast for a battleship in particular. Now that is with the lower requirement of the afterburner instead of with the high velocity, sorry, not high velocity, high capacitor need of micro warp drive. So that is something to consider on the ship. The next thing that it has is a plus 5% shield. Now with the total of 25% added to your shield, that's a massive resistance plus the resistance from your shield field module. If you are going to go large shield field module with the ship, remember anything in your shield field doesn't take is going to do damage to anything inside the shield. Remember to play with smaller shield fields for PvE, large shield fields for PvP, where you're going to play it in a very special type of format. Remember, you play this here as a closer range combat ship because of the fact that it has the speed bonus. 400% means it's going to travel really fast for a ship in this class. Now its breakdown on slots is 2 drones, 6 weapon slots, 3 mid, 7 low slots, and 3x3 for the rigs. It has an overall defense of 97,121 meters per second. With the afterburner velocity additions being added to it, it will be able to travel upwards of 700 meters per second. Once you add in the addition of command bonus and everything else that needs to be added for this particular ship, you're looking at about 800 meters per second. That is at the end of all research. Now I'm putting this in because a lot of players don't realize that I talk about starting off with no skills as your baseline point. For a baseline, the ship isn't very fast. Even with the afterburner, it is only going to reach somewhere near 300 meters per second. That is standard cruiser speed. It's the standard speed to which your battle cruisers will function at. So it is a good enough speed for combat. It will be able to take a reduced amount of damage compared to most small ships. So you can use it to actually gain some edge on the bigger ships. Okay, it is slow on warp velocity at 2 AU per second. It has a 13,000 megawatt power grid and a 16,000 gigajoule capacitor. Now this ship is one that you have to worry about the capacitor and the power grid on because it will run large weapons. Now there are two formats to use this type of ship in. You can use it in the brawler close type combat, or you can use it in the long range combat. I would suggest long range for the start, brawler for the end. Now everybody is most probably saying, why would you make a brawler ship a long range combat ship? That's because in the start it doesn't have the velocity needed to actually brawl. Once you have taken it up to the maximum bonuses, and the bonuses actually affect your weapons and your ability to move, it will be able to brawl more effectively, allowing you to do more heavy maneuvers with this vessel. Remember that even with its maximum speed pulling out at around 900 meters per second, long range weapons are still going to be better for this type of vessel because of the fact that it won't be anywhere near as speedy or as fast as a Balgon. Balgons are really that close range combat type of vessel. This isn't. So let's move on through looking at this. This is a shield tank, by the way, in case you didn't know. It's one of the unique features of the Sanchez class. There you go, 31,000 towards the shield, and the rest are reduced in comparison. Now I have touched on it basically, giving the basic aspect. Now let me get into the large lasers. Okay, so these are your close range lasers. They give you a 30-kilometer radius. Now they're going to be really effective for you against small ships, but they're not going to be that effective for you against the bigger, faster ships. So you're going to be able to take on frigates in the close range combat, but you won't be able to take on your battle cruisers and your battleships that keep that larger radius. So anything that radiuses you at 40 to 50 Ks is not going to take damage from this type of weapon. Plus, even adding your speed to this vessel will only help you catch up at a slow rate. It's not going to be that massive impact. So looking at the power grid requirement, 1000 megawatts, that will take out 6000 megawatts straight off the back, leaving you with around, okay, I know that I'm rounding it up, but leaving you with around 7000 megawatts left on. Now I am doing a very broad spectrum fit on it. That's because this isn't my proposed weapon. Remember, your option is 5000 or going down towards the long range and taking on a slightly larger cap. Sorry, this here uses more cap, my mistake. So 1255, let's do this here times 6. It will be 7500 megawatts pulled off the power. That will leave you at just 5500 to fit out the rest of the ship. Now, considering the particular class of ship that it's in, that means that one of the mid slots is instantly taken, and as I said, you're going to be thinking about using different shield field modules. Now the shield field module only consumes 1 megawatt of power regardless of where it's fitted. So let me just look at all three for you. It has a different fuel consumption depending on size, so the bigger it is, the faster it consumes fuel, if I am correct. And it also means that you have a bigger shield. So looking at this, you could use the large shield field module. I would suggest you only use it for large operations and for PvP in large shield field. Now, what does it do? It gives you the standard 59% resistance, adding to what you get from the roll bonus. Remember, don't add this in the start because you will have 0 from that effective roll bonus. You will get around 25% added, so somewhere near 84% resistance. Adding onto that your adaptive or reactive hardener that pulls it all the way through to the top, and you have a really, really tanky ship. That means that you take reduced damage by a massive figure. So running any one of these shield field modules will help you. Considering the size of its cargo hold, it can hold on very long with a small shield field module. A large shield field module will work just as well. So remember, choose the size of your field module depending on the operation you're taking on. 7.5 kilometers will help you keep a lot of ships very close by, but it won't help you with big combat fleets and major PvP operations. So remember, these are PvE builds, so I would suggest going with a small shield field module for the most economic usage of power. Now, the next thing to note in your shield field modules are you have 2 more left. And considering the size of the ship and the fact that it's going to be very hard for you to tackle any enemies, I'm going to suggest within the module of electronic warfare, you either use double target painters or double disruptors. Depending on the sector in which you're fighting, you're going to use double disruptors to disrupt the weapon type. If you are facing missiles, it's going to be guidance. If you're facing any of the other systems, it's going to be the tracking disruptor. So those are what you're going to use in electronic warfare. Now, mid slot is a very special slot to the ship. Now, considering that its bonus is majorly to the shield, let's go to the first thing that needs to be added, and that is going to be a shield hardener. Now, my build on the ship isn't the best when it comes to everything that the ship can do. Remember, you're going to adjust it as time goes through. So 1 megawatt, it still hasn't yet impacted the power grid really. You still have around 5,500 remaining. It's quite a good chunk for you to think about using. So let's move up. So we have 1 slot taken for additional resistance. We're going to go double large shield field, double large shield booster. Now, yes, I did say double. Now, why am I doubling it? 1,000 megawatts for almost 1,800 in standard repair. With whatever other modules you put on the ship, you can really improve that repairing aspect. So this is the heavy tank build that I generally do for PvE. And the more tanky the ship is, the better it helps in anchoring a format. Now, if you're going to play with the ship solo, you are going to change up your footing slightly. You might still run the double shield booster, but remember, everything else on this build is very difficult. You are at 3 out of 7, you have 4 more slots to go. So before I even get onto anything major, let's go to Afterburner. Now, the reason for the Afterburner is it does have a bonus to it, although this bonus doesn't activate without you reaching the 2nd level of research. And here we go. This is going to cost you 878 megawatts. So basically just under just over 1,900 megawatts has been removed from the 5,500 that we had, leaving us with around 3,600 megawatts to go for the remaining 3 slots. Now, considering how big that figure is, it means that the remaining 3 slots can go in really simply. Whatever we put in will go in, it will fit up, and it will help the ship really tank any damage. Now, a shield extender will be very good for tanking, but remember, these are those options where I would say you can remove them to put in another aspect to the ship. Remember, this is just to make it tanky. 680 megawatts, you still have quite a big grid left. You still have over 2,500. You don't have to worry about the next 2. They can't take up 2,500 regardless of what they are. Considering that out of the 5 slots that I've currently given, 2 of them improve, 3 or 4 of them improve your shield, 1 improve your speed. That means the next 2 will have to be used for your weapons. And remember, these are optional places, so remember to carefully think about what you're putting on. If you want to go more tanky and have more resistance to the overall damage that you take, you could always put on a damage control unit in place of the the shield extender. So this is one of your best options in terms of all-round defense, the damage control unit. Now for the remainder 2 slots, you're going to use weapon output. There is another option on this, I'll just give it to you in a second. So you're going to go weapon upgrades. You're going to go the best heatsink that you have. It's not really going to impact you too far. As you can see, 7 megawatts, you're nowhere near done. You can put anything else in that last slot, it's not going to give you 0. So moving all the way down, obviously you know what's coming up next, a tracking computer. Now tracking computer improves the tracking of your weapons. It also improves the accuracy. And considering what this here does for your ship, it's really not going to be a fall off completely. It's not going to impact you in too big of a negative. And considering that its power drain is really minimal, you could always swap it out for a double heatsink. That means faster firing instead of more accuracy in your firing. So there we go. That is the basic. Now one of the other additional options that you could put on the ship is actually a capacitor battery. Now yes, I know capacitor batteries aren't the best, and I didn't talk about drones. You're going to go with whichever drone you want for this vessel. You're going to go for non-stationary drones most likely to keep on to the small ones, small ships that attack you. You will only use stationary drones once you have completed your training for your vessel and you are fast enough with it. So a large battery will give you a small boost to your capacitor, and it will allow you to take on a lot more in terms of your combat time. Now, the one thing that you should be noting is you are running double shield boosters, so it does drain your capacitor really fast. So if you are going for this to be more of your tank instead of your big muscle in terms of fighting, you're going to go with the full shield deployment that I would regularly go with. Remember, the third slot is now the one that will change in the rigs for combat. So your first rig in combat is going to be the shield field economizer, where you get 25% extra per shield field booster. So this means that you're now going to recover a lot more shield. This is going to put you up in quite the range, so you're not really going to take that much of damage. Most ships can only impact you with about a 2,000 to 5,000, and you're going to have time to recover this when you add in the extender to the whole situation, or the damage control unit, whichever way you went. The next thing you're going to do is reduce the capacitor need for shield modules. This is going to make everything way more easy for you. A reduction in capacitor need means you're going to last longer in fights. And then last but not least, the final level of your combat, you are going to go and impact you're going to go and impact the shield field module, the shield field extender, sorry. Using rig 3s on all of these are the best thing for you to do. I did make a mistake by saying 25% increase in shield efficiency. It is bigger on a rig 3, my mistake, sorry about that. And going down, the last one is going to be the increase in the shield extender. Now with all of these added to your ship, you make your ship incredibly hard to damage. It gives you an additional bonus to recovering shield. It gives you a chance to pull up your HP by massive amounts. Now if you are using the damage control unit and you are using the correct combination of hardness, you could actually go up to somewhere near, what was the figure that I got from somebody else, 1 million HP. That means you're not considering any type of weapon upgrade to your vessel. So you're going to go with the standard upgrades that come through researching large weapons. Okay, now a lot of my build is optional in this ship. If you notice, the weapons that I put on, the weapon upgrades and the capacitor battery slot are all optional slots on the ship. You could always replace them with other units to improve the defense. You could put on the damage control, you could put on an adaptive instead of just, the reactive instead of just an adaptive hardener, making it super tanky. And with both of them active, you extend the effective HP of the ship by a tremendous amount. Plus, adding into the aspect the rigs that you put onto it, you can extend the resistance to certain types of damage, extending the resistance even further, adding a damage control unit, giving you even more effective HP. Unactivated, the damage control unit should extend you to about 250,000 HP, and with it completely activated, almost to 1 million. So those are the types of aspects you can put into the ship. The only reason why I don't go with damage control units is the long period between activations. Now, with the addition of speed to this vessel, you reduce damage. So that is something else to think about very carefully when you are improving this vessel. The last thing to put onto the ship is going to be a thruster. Now, why do you want to put a thruster? That is for the brawler mode that you can go into later. So by going into shorter range weapons, playing the closer range combat instead of the long range combat, you can do a ton of damage, and you can do it on a very close range. So auxiliary thruster 3 added into the entire mix makes your ship way faster, plus the bonus of your afterburner, plus the bonus of your shield resistance. You're going to have a massive amount of impact to enemy players. That 84% reduction of damage will grow higher with the addition of speed. So there is something for you to always think about. Plus you have higher tracking the higher your speed is. The tracking is a differential of reference of speed, so it actually helps you. The faster you are, the more damage you can actually output. It also means the less damage you take. So that means if you pass a certain limit, any ship that's slower than you starts to do reduced damage. That's how speed tanking works. So moving on from those two, the next two things to think about is extending the capacitor. Now, yes, it does have a rather large capacitor, but you want to make sure the capacitor is as big as possible. So a shield, not a shield, a capacitor battery expansion to give you more power will definitely help you with keeping yourself shielded and attacking at the same time, giving you a beautiful set on where you're going to be able to play. Reducing the recharge time would be a viable option, or just doubling up on the capacitor increase. So with all of this, you have a very tanky ship that can really do damage. Now in the combat slot, if you didn't run with the extender, you can actually change out that last slot to another defense module for the space that you're ratting in. If you're ratting in multiple territories and not just one, I would suggest you not try and buff up your defense against one type of damage. Instead, run something like laser damage output or laser tracking so that you do more damage. All of this put together will make that ship a real beast for combat. Now, regardless of which way you go with the builds, this is one of the most effective ships. It's actually going to be something that you most likely will see me running with in maybe a week, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, depending on how long it takes me to grind up the ISK. It's possible that I will make it to my maximum ISK in about a month's time. That there will make it a really long progress, and at that point I will be running the Nightmare around with some research into some of its key aspects to make sure that it is gaining a good roll bonus. Now, I know that the build isn't what most players would be thinking about. If you are going to be going on the brawler offensive, remember your defense is critical. Everything will be for defensive play, and you'll only use the heatsink for pulling up your damage. You're not really going to go so much with the tracking computer because the range doesn't really matter to you. And you're going to be running the capacitor battery. You're going to be running everything for optimal damage and capacitor. Don't think about changing up your builds too much, because if you are running the Nightmare for that purpose, you're most likely taking on multiple types of enemies, or you are using it to run story missions in the high sec. This will be one of the ships that can solo them. So that is it for this video from me. I hope that you all enjoyed this video, and I hope that you find it very helpful for your build for your Nightmare. Share with me your build for your Nightmare at a later stage in the game. I obviously am talking about a broad spectrum build, and remember, this is before everybody has reached T8, so some of the aspects don't really take research into consideration. Respecking is something that you can do, but players would rather be advised not to completely respec so that they have a backup ship. Remember, these ships are going to cost you upwards of 10 billion to set up. Yes, they cost you 5 billion to build if you have the blueprint. Even if you do not have the blueprint and it costs you 7 billion, the next lot of things that you have to do is outfit it. And considering the outfitting price, let me just go to one or two modules. So considering the outfitting price for for just your shields is going to cost you about $500 million a piece. That's $1 billion for the 2 shields. Adding into it the other fittings and the rigs to the ship. The rigs on the ship are going to cost you upward of $1 billion. So there's $1 billion added to your entire cost. That's $2 billion in just fitting it up. Then your rigs and your weapons are going to cost you quite a heavy amount. Let me just go with the short range weapons for the start and then the long range. Okay, looks like it did come down in price. That's a shock to me. Come on, open market, open, open, open. All right, yeah, there we go. It's about 40 million a piece. So counting that up times 6, it's 240 million. Add in all your other small little aspects that you're going to be rigging up the ship with. Your mid slot, your low slot, the other items, they're all large. You could reach an easy 750. Possibility there's going to be a little bit more added to the ship, plus the fact that you're going to be respecking. If you are respecking, easy 10 billion. If you aren't respecking, you're going to buy multiple sets of fittings for the ship. That's going to take you up to 10 billion regardless, because in that small space where I haven't talked about anything is the cost of plasmoids or ionic solution or heavy water for power, and all of these being used to power up your shields are going to take up quite an amount of ISK from you. It's going to cost you upward of 4 million to fully hold the load on your ship, and the load will last you between 4 and 8 hours depending on how fast you use it or how you are using it and what you are using it for. So that is all for my build for the ship. I hope you do enjoy, and I hope that you do watch out on my channel for more build videos. Thank you all for watching. Have a good day.